And Indonesia in recent years has been firm on its stance to strengthening its downstream industries. Now, this includes measures to prohibit the export of raw materials from the country. And to know more about this topic, we now have Indonesian Trade Minister Special Staff on International Trade Treaty, Mr. Bara Hasibuan. Welcome, Pak Bara, to the studio.
Thank you, Kai. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad we get to talk about this because last year, we heard that WTO has decided to support the EU's lawsuit on Indonesia's decision to prohibit the nickel or export. Now, what are the basis for last year's WTO decision?
Yeah, the ruling by the WTO, which was circulated among the WTO members in early November, was not in favor of Indonesia. In other words, they chose to side with the EU. They deemed that our policy to ban the export of nickel was not consistent with the WTO provisions. And then, so we chose to appeal that decision. In the meantime, we're waiting for the appellate body at the WTO to be established. It will take some time because at this point, the formation of the appellate body is being blocked by the US, the United States. So the United States is demanding some kind of a total reform within the WTO before they agree on the establishment of the appellate body. So the decision or the formation of the appellate body has to be supported by all the members of the WTO.
Wow, so that's still some time. But before we get there, though, do we have a strong case and arguments in this appeal?
Well, the WTO body, when that decided this case at the first level, believed that our policy to ban the export of nickel was not consistent with the provisions of the WTO, because we argued at that time that the ban on nickel export was necessary to support our downstream industrialization process.
Yeah.
And they believe, throughout their decision, they believe that our downstream industrialization process is not mature enough to justify a ban on the certain commodity export.
Okay.
But we argue at the time, our lawyers argue that actually our downstream industry was actually growing. At that time, we already had about 20 smelters, on nickel specifically, all over the country, and that is why we needed this ban on the export of nickel to support that industrialization process, in the downstream sector.
But out of curiosity, what would have been okay to support? Like, what would have been something that the WTO was deemed okay? So, if I hear this correctly, they said no to completely banning the export.
Right.
If we did not completely ban the export, they would have been okay with that.
Yeah, if we had imposed, let's say, high tariffs, as opposed to completely banning the commodity, the export of a commodity, that would have been okay, according to the WTO provisions. But we had made the decision to totally ban the export of this certain commodity, nickel, because we thought that it was necessary. The government believed that it was necessary, the total ban, to support our downstream industrialization process.
That's really interesting.
Which is nascent, but we chose to ban it because we believe, yes, the industry is still nascent, was nascent and is still nascent, but we needed that ban to speed up the process of the industrialization of this downstream.
Well, so we see two different perspectives here, but respect to Indonesia for standing firm to, stick to supporting the growth inside the country. Now, we spoke about nickel, but now we also have other smelters, bauxite, for instance.
To process other commodities.
That's right.
Yes.
So what about China's suit about our prohibition on exporting bauxite? Is that still an ongoing process?
No, they have not said anything that they're going to sue. So now President Jokowi has decided to impose also a total ban on the export of bauxite, starting mid-year. And then in a speech about 3 weeks ago, he said, because the majority of our bauxite goes to China, but I think about 90% goes to China, of our bauxite. So, he said in that speech that if China also chooses to file a law case, a legal case at the WTO, like what the EU did, I think we're going to be prepared also. But that's not going to deter us from,
supporting our downstream
exactly,
industry.
exactly.
Yep. So it looks like there is a certain amount of time until this particular decision will be binding, whether we win this case or not,
Yes.
right? However it goes. So there's still time. We have to wait until the WTO comes up with the what's it called?
Appellate body.
The appellate body.
Yes.
So how long will this appeal process take? And in the meantime, can we still continue to ban exports to focus on the growth of
So as long as there's no decision by the appellate body, so the ruling at the first level is not binding yet, so we can proceed with the existing policy.
Okay.
Of,
how long do you think that's going to take? How much time is it going to take?
Well, our lawyers in Geneva, they predict that most likely the appellate body will be formed by 2024, so by next year. But there's going to be a long line of cases that will be heard by the appellate body. So we are 25th in line. So even if the appellate body is formed next year, it's still going to take some time until our case is heard.
And by the time, do you think
by the time our case is heard and the appellate body comes up with a ruling, then we feel that we're going to be confident enough that our downstream industry will be strong.
I mean, that certainly is very interesting, because I want to take to the next question, because I want to ask, how strong is our smelter industry currently? I mean, you've just mentioned that there are, we already have 20-something smelters in Indonesia for our downstreaming, and that's continuously growing. Can you talk about this generally?
Yeah, so in general, I can say that the policy of banning the export of certain commodities has worked.
Yeah.
Because over the years we have seen the mushrooming of smelters, to process all kinds of commodities in Indonesia, especially nickel.
Yeah.
So today we have about 23, 24 smelters all over Indonesia. So I think that policy has worked, and I think we're committed to continuing the policy, for the benefit of the country, because we intend to be a producing nation as opposed to just a consuming nation. I think the policy is necessary to strengthen our human capital in order for Indonesia to be able to compete effectively in the 21st century.
Other than becoming, a producing nation, what do you
for the sake of creating our competitive edge.
Yes. So what do you see are other benefits that can come out with a strong downstreaming industry?
That we're going to be an industrial nation, Kai. Right now our industry is not strong enough, so we have to come up with measures that would force us to strengthen our human capital, to strengthen our industrialization, because in the past I think we were spoiled too much by raw material. It used to be so easy for us to ship out raw material, whether it's your coal, nickel, gold, tin, copper, without creating the value added in the country. So I think with this policy by President Jokowi, so we want to create that added value in the country. We just don't want it to be an exporter of raw material. That's it. But we want to create something else, in the country, so that would lead us to become a strong industrialized nation.
Yes. If I'm not mistaken, Minister Retno Marsudi and President Joko Widodo sees it as the next step closer on becoming a developed nation.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's certainly something the country, very much puts an effort to making sure it goes well. So you know what? You in this particular field, I wish all the success.
Thank you, Kai.
Because this is certainly going to change the way Indonesia is going to do business internationally.
Yeah.
And glad that we have that.
We at the Trade Ministry is prepared.
Yes.
With any repercussions that Indonesia could face as a result of this policy to totally ban exports on commodities.
It seems so, and you seem to have a very consistent goal that is definitely going to support, first and foremost, the strength of industrialization here in Indonesia.
Yes.
So, Pak Bara, thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
coming.
Karen. Thank you for having me.
And it certainly is an
Anytime.
enlightenment because there was a lot of confusion on what's going to happen, what's going to happen to your industry. There you go, clarified that we still have the possibility until it's legally binding to continue the policy that's been set up by President Joko Widodo. And that was our dialogue with Bara Hasibuan talking on how we can strengthen our downstream industry here in Indonesia. A lot of potential there, as you can hear, and lots of possibilities.